Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli soldiers raided Jenin's Ibn Sina hospital earlier today, disguised as civilian women and medical staff, killing 3 Palestinians. Shocking hospital surveillance footage shows the Israeli forces storming the hospital with guns raised as they search for the 3 militants they said they were using the facility as a hideout. Israeli soldiers and settlers have killed more than 370 Palestinians in the West Bank since October 7th, while more than 6,300 people have been arrested. Meanwhile, deadly attacks continue in Gaza, where reports say Israeli strikes killed large numbers of civilians in residential areas of Gaza City. The death toll has now topped 26,700 since the start of Israel's assault. Hamas said it's reviewing a new truce proposal negotiated during weekend talks between Qatar, Egypt, Israel, and the United States. Hamas's political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, said he'll visit Cairo soon as part of the ongoing negotiations. Hamas has demanded an end to Israel's attacks and a complete withdrawal of occupation forces. Meanwhile, displaced Palestinians continue to flee as Israeli attacks target every part of the besieged territory. This is Suleiman, a young boy who fled Khan Yunis by wheelchair after he lost his legs in an Israeli airstrike.
My dream was to play football, but the occupation army did not let me play. They cut off my legs. Thank God it wasn't worse. They stole my dream.
An average of over 10 children have lost one or both legs each day since Israel's assault started on October 7th. Many amputations have been performed without anesthesia due to the shortage in medical supplies. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is meeting with key donors to UNRWA. That's the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, after the U.S. and a dozen other countries halted funding for the agency after Israel accused 12 UNRWA employees of helping Hamas stage the October 7th attack. UNRWA has 13,000 employees. A group of at least 28 organizations, including ActionAid, Oxfam, and Save the Children, issued a statement condemning the decision to suspend funding, warning it could lead to a complete collapse of the humanitarian response in Gaza. UNRWA has fired 9 staffers in response to the allegations. Apparently, one other is dead as the matter is being investigated. On Monday, the UN said Israeli authorities have not directly shared any evidence to substantiate their claims.
You know, we've seen this reference to a dossier. We saw it in the Times, in the Wall Street Journal, in CBS. I'm not going to name all the media organizations, but we respect them all. That information has not been given to us officially by the Israeli authorities.
UNRWA reported today Israel's attacked its facilities in Gaza at least 260 times, killing at least 360 Palestinians since October 7th. The Pentagon on Monday identified the 3 U.S. soldiers killed in a drone attack at a base in Jordan over the weekend. Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, and Specialist Brianna Moffett were all reservists from Georgia, all 3 of them African-American. Meanwhile, early reports say the drone was able to bypass U.S. air defenses because troops had mistaken it for a U.S. drone returning to the base. A group called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq has claimed responsibility for the attack. Iran denies any involvement. President Biden has vowed to retaliate. While the White House has said it's not seeking war with Iran, Republican lawmakers are urging the president to bomb Iran directly. Over a dozen Palestinian Muslim students at Harvard filed a federal civil rights complaint with the Department of Education, accusing Harvard of discrimination and failing to protect them from racism and harassment. The students, who are represented by the Muslim Legal Fund of America, say they've been repeatedly targeted for attacks, including doxing, stalking, and physical assaults, in some cases simply for wearing a Palestinian keffiyeh on campus. This comes as the City Council of Cambridge, which is home to Harvard, passed a resolution Monday calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the release of remaining hostages. In related news, the University of Michigan Faculty Senate Assembly passed a resolution to demand the school divest from any company profiting from Israel's war on Gaza. In Pakistan, a court has sentenced former Prime Minister Imran Khan to 10 years in prison, accusing him of leaking state secrets. Khan has rejected the charges against him as politically motivated. He's already serving a 3-year prison sentence on corruption charges. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, former foreign minister, top official in Imran Khan's PTI party, has also been sentenced to 10 years. This all comes 1 week ahead of February 8th elections, which Khan has been barred from. Khan was ousted as prime minister in 2022, blaming the military and rival parties for plotting against him. In other news from Pakistan, the Iranian foreign minister traveled to Islamabad Monday as the two countries moved to de-escalate tensions following deadly airstrikes within each other's borders earlier this month. This is the Iranian foreign minister, Hossein Amir-Abdollahian.
If you look at the history of Iran and Pakistan, you will see that there have never been any case of the territorial differences or border problems and issues between Iran and Pakistan. So this is one of our prides, and this is one of our very clear manifestations of our good bilateral relations.
In Sudan, at least 54 people were killed, including children and 2 UN peacekeepers, in attacks along the border with South Sudan. This weekend's clashes in the oil-rich territory of Abyei, which is claimed by both Sudan and South Sudan, is the deadliest since at least 2021. Meanwhile, the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court said there's evidence both the Sudanese army and the RSF are committing war crimes in Darfur. This is ICC prosecutor Karim Khan.
I'm compelled to conclude and to report that it's my assessment that we are fast approaching a breaking point and that the conflict in Sudan demands your attention now more than ever.
Nearly half of Sudan's 49 million residents are in urgent need of aid, with about 8 million people displaced by the intensifying violence. The UN estimates some 12,000 people have been killed, but the true death toll is believed to be much higher. The United States has reinstated economic sanctions on Venezuela following a decision by the Venezuelan Supreme Court to uphold a ban of leading opposition presidential candidate Maria Corina Machado from running. Elections are scheduled for later this year. The government of President Nicolas Maduro accuses Machado of supporting the harsh U.S. sanctions that have tanked the Venezuelan economy and of backing a U.S.-imposed unelected interim opposition government. Machado, who won a primary election held by the opposition last October, spoke yesterday.
I received the command of almost 3 million Venezuelans who exercised popular sovereignty on October 22nd, the opposition primary election day. I represent that popular sovereignty. They cannot have elections without me, nor the millions of Venezuelans who voted on that day.
The White House has given Maduro's government until April to allow Machado on the ballot. Last October, the U.S. eased some sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry under the condition Maduro allowed opposition candidates to participate in the election. Those sanctions could also be rolled back if the ban on Machado is kept in place. Tension continues to mount on Capitol Hill as the Senate pushes negotiations for a bipartisan border enforcement deal attached to military aid for Ukraine. Far-right Republicans, encouraged by former President Trump, have said they'll sabotage the deal, even though it includes some of the harshest immigration restrictions yet, including granting executive authority to block people from applying for asylum once the number of apprehended migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border reaches a daily average of 5,000 in a week. President Biden's already vowed to use the new emergency authorities to shut down the southern border, praising the deal as, quote, the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border we've ever had in our country, unquote. Immigration rights groups have condemned the deal, urging Biden to support humanitarian relief. The proposal also drew criticism from Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador.
Well, that's not realistic. With all due respect, how are we going to solve the migration problems with walls? How are we going to solve migration problems by closing the border? Why these proposals? Because elections are coming.
And here in New York, Harlem Council member and exonerated Central Park 5 member Yousef Salam was pulled over by police Friday night while driving with his family, his wife and 4 daughters. Dashcam video shows the officer appearing to back off after Salam, who was sworn in less than a month ago, identifies himself as a member of the New York City Council. Salam says the officer never responded to his request to know why he was being stopped. The NYPD later said it's because his car windows were illegally tinted and he had an out-of-state license plate. The incident comes as the New York City Council appears poised to override Mayor Eric Adams' veto on a police accountability bill and legislation that bans solitary confinement in prisons. Intro 586, known as the How Many Stops Act, would mandate officers record demographic information and give a reason for stopping people. Last week, council members, including Yousef Salam, faith leaders, and community organizers gathered in support of the act. This is activist Crystal Walfel.
This Intro 586 is not going to stop everything in this moment, but it will give us the data, the information. It will call on our NYPD to act differently. In the 10 years that Faith in New York has been in existence, we have stood on those city hall steps too many times for people who have been murdered by police. One too many times. We have stood on these city hall steps too many times demanding that the NYPD be transparent. We have stood on these steps too many times asking and demanding accountability, asking and demanding that our NYPD stop killing our people.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.